AI is getting people fired. Left and right, we're seeing companies lay off thousands of people and blame AI for it more and more openly. But a new study shows that, in fact, it's not because AI is ready to take their jobs. And we'll look at all of the very human skills that could keep you employed in the future. I'm Jake Ward. This is The Rip Current. We look at the big invisible forces that are shaping us. And AI, we come back to a lot. I wrote a book in 2022 called The Loop, How AI is Creating a World Without Choices and How to Fight Back. And I predicted in it that we would be soon in a world in which AI would, in fact, replace jobs because companies would just come to believe that it was more efficient to have an AI do it than to have you do it. I should tell you right now, I'm on a ton of cold medicine, and so who knows what I'm going to say in this video, but we'll see if we can limp through it. So the big headline you've probably already seen is the headline about Amazon getting 16,000 people there getting the axe. They sat down on Thursday morning to this email, update on our organization. When you see that, you know you are in big trouble. Written by Beth Galletti, Senior Vice President of People Experience and Technology at Amazon. And it's a tough one, right? They say, I want to let you know that we're making additional organizational changes across Amazon that will impact some of our teammates. Oh my God. So 16,000 people laid off. And they also say this very disturbing thing. Some of you might ask if this is the beginning of a new rhythm where we announce broad reductions every few months. That's not our plan. That's not very committal language, but okay. But just as we always have, every team will continue to evaluate the ownership, speed, and capacity to invent for customers and make adjustments as appropriate. And then this is the part where she's not quite saying you're getting fired because of AI, but she almost is. That's never been more important than it is today in a world that's changing faster than ever. Little shifty about that, but it is, of course, not, that it echoes all sorts of sentiments that we heard from Andy Jassy, the CEO of Amazon, at one point about that stuff. And so it's very much in keeping with what he has said about needing fewer people in future because of AI. So then, boom, here comes the next announcement. Today, Dow will cut 4,500 jobs as emphasis shifts to AI and automation. This is also big layoffs of white collar workers. Amazon's not laying off factory workers; those are corporate jobs. And this is also going to be corporate jobs at Dow. So, this is sort of this is the stuff coming for white collar work. And I was really interested by all of this because it happened at the same time that a big study has been released now by Harvard Business Review that's really interesting, came out today. And it says that, in fact, and this is sort of related to something that I've talked about before, if you follow me on TikTok or if you watch my shorts, there's a whole piece I do about how I've been talking to people who do the consulting with these companies. And they say that these companies are laying people off, not because AI is ready to go, but just because they think they're going to be able to get away with AI in the future. And they'd rather just kind of white knuckle it with as few people on board as possible in the meantime. And that is what this Harvard Business Review study shows. Companies are laying off workers because of AI's potential, not its performance. They did a survey of over 1,000 executives around the world and asked them what how they thought AI might be changing their business and shaping their decision about headcount. Here's what they say. What we found is that AI is behind at least some layoffs, but that these are almost completely in anticipation of AI's impact. In other words, the job losses and slowed hiring are real, even though companies are still waiting for generative AI to deliver on its promises. So you have here industries basically believing the hype, believing that these companies are going to, these technologies are going to be able to replace human beings, and making that bet early because they'd rather get by with fewer people than with too many people. And it is a tough time as a result for workers because that desire on the part of CEOs to go ahead and cut people is really, that's what they're paid for, right? But that's what the board wants from them is efficiency. So there are a bunch of problems here because so what we also know is that the World Economic Forum's let me see if I can turn this up. The World Economic Forum's job skills report on AI looked at what it is that is, we're going to want basically from the work, from workers in the future. And this study that they put out this month basically says that we as humans, our value is not going to be in just our technical skills. If anything, what I would argue is that we have over-indexed on technical skills, being able to do the sorts of, engineering and rules-based creation that, is part of STEM. I think we've over-indexed on that. And according to studies like this one, we're going to need two big things at least that are really important for being effective workers in the future, in a future full of AI. One of them is deep expertise in your area. So because you're going to be, in theory, working hand in hand with these AI systems, you need to also understand the area in which you are working, medicine, engineering, whatever it's going to be, deeply enough that you know when this thing is full of shit, right? I mean, when you can error correct this very fast-moving piece of machinery. It's not the most satisfying job in the world, I would argue, and there's studies that have shown that people actually kind of hate that job some of the time. But if you're going to be going back and forth with something, you need to know when it's wrong, right? Or you need to know where you should be pointing it, rather than treating it as a sort of omnipotent source of information. So that's one thing. Deep expertise is actually still going to be an important thing. And the other thing has to do with all of this, these soft skills, with leadership skills, and the sorts of, connections to other human beings. These are really, really important, we call them soft skills, but emotional intelligence, right? Facilitation, collaboration, these sorts of skills. And the thing is, you grow these skills, if you consider that a human being isn't fully cooked mentally psychologically until they're 25, that means you've got if somebody just goes straight from high school to college and then graduates from a 4-year university and goes right into that first job, they've got 3 or 4 years of still being kind of a learning organism, picking up soft skills on the job. That's the big thing, right? And so if you're not planning as a company to hire people when they're 22, 23 into that first entry-level job, what you're depriving them of is the opportunity to learn the really important skills that those people are going to need when you want them as a manager or when you want them as a complex sort of salesperson, right? That ability to develop the ability to be persuasive, be communicative, have empathy with coworkers and customers, and, negotiate things in a complex way. Excuse me. All of those things are skills that you pick up in your first and second job, and then you start deploying in that third job. So, the thing that I think about right away, I mean, there's sort of the short-term thing, and we can get into this more deeply in another video, but the short-term solution seems to be that you really have to go from job applicant to problem solver. More and more people want to know that you know how to use these tools to build stuff. And if you can show off a thing that you've built, it's going to put you in a whole different position. Using a video site like Loom to do a little 3-minute monologue on here's a thing I built. I think that gets you noticed by a recruiter now in a whole new way, having sort of a portfolio, and also learning a little bit of workflow, right? Learning how to put different pieces of AI together, how to chain prompts together or use some of these no-code automation tools. All of that can be, that can be good. But I think in the long term, it's really going to be human connection that's going to make you sort of valuable in the long term. And so it seems to me that first of all, because these mass application systems right now are just a total algorithmic graveyard, you have to know people individually. You got to find a real human in a company that you want to work for, and you got to send them a message that says something like, I was laid off, I've been rebuilding workflows, using AI and blah, 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 and I'd love to talk to you for 10 minutes about what I've built. But I think that the fundamental thing, in the big picture, is going to be these thinking skills, the ability to think about systems and be literate about problems and frame them appropriately and be able to communicate and facilitate and be fun to be around. These are things that are going to be hugely valuable. I would say even more valuable than they've ever been before. So I'm seeing all these layoffs just like you are. They're alarming, no question. But I think that these companies have sold themselves short on what are going to be the really important skills they're going to need from their people when they need them to be complex managers and, skilled negotiators and all of those things. And I think we can put ourselves in the right position to be snapped up by those people by thinking about certainly how you can show off your skills in using AI to do stuff, because you'll have to do that to some extent, God help me, but also your ability to be the best kind of human possible, the kind that people want to work with. That feels to me like one of the most important parts of this.
The Rip Current is produced and created by me, Jacob Ward. And if you liked this show and you want more content like this, go to theripcurrent.com, where I publish a weekly newsletter that covers these same sorts of stories of the big invisible forces that have us all in their grip. And if you want to really do me a favor, if you could go to where you have listened to this or watched it and like it, share it, or even better, review it. Holy cow, is that helpful? It's the best possible way for me to find a new audience. I really appreciate you being here. Thanks for listening.